And we are live, I think. Hello, welcome to Off the Cuff. My name is Ben Campbell. I'm a coach specializing in productivity, dating, social matters, mostly the dating and social matters. The format of this show is that I take questions from the community and I answer them in this live stream format. We're doing this one sitting down because I'm suffering from mental fucking food poisoning at the moment. I had some bad Lebanese food on Tuesday and I still haven't recovered. I am joined by my friend and co-host Anton Toya. Anton, say hello.
Hello, guys.
Drinking coconut milk to settle my stomach. All right, I'm going to go in. I got a question from someone here. They said, "Dear Ben, I hope this message finds you well. Not as well as I'd like to be met. I'm reaching out to you for advice on a delicate and complex situation involving someone I know. I believe your expertise in self-improvement and coaching would provide valuable insights, so in this case might be more challenging." This guy always writes like the most formal, well presented. It's like he's writing me a letter in like 1800s England. I love it. So this case might be more challenging than most. The person in question is a man who stands 5'5" tall and is deeply troubled by his height, which he blames for his lack of attention from women. This perceived inadequacy has led him down a dark path to the point where he now feels suicidal. While this alone should be concerning enough, there are additional factors that make this situation more complicated. Unfortunately, this individual also harbors some deeply problematic traits. He is racist, ill-tempered, and often displays a very nasty and horrible demeanor. Okay. His interactions with others are frequently negative, and he tends to push people away rather than draw them in. He has an incredibly toxic outlook on life, particularly when it comes to relationships and self-improvement. He genuinely believes that any advice about improving one's personality to attract others is merely a coping mechanism that only works for taller men, and that shorter men like himself are doomed to fail regardless. This mindset has led him to reject any suggestion that he can improve his situation by working on his character or behavior. Instead, he remains fixated on his height as the sole reason for his struggles, which only deepens his despair and bitterness. I'm at a loss for how to approach this situation. On one hand, he needs help, but on the other, his toxic attitude makes it difficult for others to want to engage with him. I know he needs a wake-up call, but I'm unsure how to deliver it in a way that he might actually receive. I'm also concerned about his mental health, given his suicidal tendencies. Ben, do you have any advice on how to address this? How can I help him see that his height isn't the only factor affecting his life and that improving his personality could indeed make a difference? How can I encourage him to shift his focus away from what he can't change and towards what he can? Thank you for your time and any guidance you can offer. Okay. There's a lot to unpack here. So, I mean, the first thing that I got to address is the suicidal stuff. If you genuinely think that this guy's at risk of killing himself, you need to get him some legitimate help, like some I don't know what the best thing would be, but perhaps to like I don't like the idea of kind of taking people's agency away from them, but if someone's at genuine risk of killing themselves, then some sort of legal intervention might be in order. And I don't know what that is like in places where you are, but where I grew up, at least at the time that I grew up, there were people that were suicidal. You could make a call to certain people and they would come and make sure that everything's okay and take that person and institutionalize them for a little while to make sure that they get their shit together. That being said, most people that like people that say they're suicidal often are the last people who will ever actually commit suicide, and that's a dangerous thing for me to say. And maybe I'm wrong about it, but I have seen the people that I have known in my life that have ended their lives were the people that you would never have expected to. Like, they don't show it on the outside, and usually when people are like your friend, you're talking about that kind of thing, really it's a way for them to seek validation and help, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that seeking validation is like something that's wrong, but he might be doing this in order to elicit pity from you or for you to empathize with the situation because he's in a lot of emotional pain. Clearly, I don't know what the best way to deal with this. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychotherapist, whatever. I suggest you seek someone else's help in terms of the suicidality of this. So I'm going to disregard that for the rest of the question, address this as someone who is black-pilled and has a shitty mentality, right? Yeah, I mean, you laid out the real problem here, which again is not his height, it's his attitude, and there's a few factors as to why people do that. There's a few reasons as to why people will take extra. Like, yes, being shorter does not give you an advantage in dating. Does it give you a disadvantage? Maybe a little bit. People will be like raging and saying that it's massive and it's everything, and like with every other black pill thing, whether it's about your facial symmetry or your height or whatever. There was I talked about this in the community recently, again, discord.gg/self-improvement. I posted a video in the free chat that talked about this, and a guy essentially went through a bunch of studies that showed that height, facial masculinity, deepening of the voice, and muscularity, and like one other thing were all grouped into a thing made up less than 5% of dating outcomes. And when you speak to people about when you speak to women about what they actually care about in dating, your looks are important, and they will give you if you're a good looking guy, they give you an advantage. If you're not a good looking guy, and even if you are a good looking guy, the most important thing is your personality. It's the way that you treat people. It's the way that you act. It's your mindset towards situations. It's how much action you're willing to take. And we've talked about this dozens of times before on the stream. And I know is like, well, I'm a reasonably handsome guy. Anton's a reasonably handsome guy. It's difficult to take our advice if you're someone that struggles with how they look. But it's not how you look that hampers your results. It's the way that you think about how you look and how you perceive that to affect things. If you go into a situation expecting negativity, you're going to get negativity in return, and you end up like this guy who even his friend is saying that like people do not want to be around him, right? And there's a few reasons for this, and one of them is that if you've faced rejection, it can be easier to externalize it and sort of put it on things that you can't control rather than things that you can. It's far easier to say that it's my height that's my fault and not things that I can actually change about myself, and that's for two reasons. One, it's a lot less. It like both are personal, but it's a lot less personal. It's like if you don't like me for the way I look, I can't do anything about that. If you don't like me for the way that I am, then not only can I do something about that, and in fact, I would have to like go through some inner work in order to fix that, which most people don't want to do, which is part of the reason they come up with this excuse. But the other reason is that if you losing track of my thoughts here, if you don't like me for who I am, that's far more personal. So it's easier for me to externalize it. But yeah, I mean, in terms of your question, you're asking what can you do? Fucking nothing, really, to be honest. Like if you're trying to give this guy advice and you're trying to show him the light, quote unquote, and he's not taking it, he's gonna end up like every other fucking black pill guy that just decides to swallow that mentality and internalize. And unless he makes the decision to change his internal state and work on that shit and realize that he can get the results that he wants, it's not his fucking height holding him back. I know guys that are under 6 foot, and you say this guy's 5'5". I know a guy that's probably around 5'5" that fucking slays. And I've taken clients, we run boot camps. I've taken clients from every fucking height group, some that are autistic, some that are not, some that are physically very attractive, physically very unattractive. The way that they look is by far the least determining factor in how successful they are going and approaching women on these boot camps. The most important factor is their mentality. It's how did they think it's going to go? What are their expectations? What's their attitude towards rejection and failure and things like that? Are they bitter about it, or do they treat it as something that's like a necessary and healthy consequence of progress? So yeah, there's nothing you can do to help this guy beyond just try to show him the door. And as friends, we want to help the people that are close to us. We want to help the people that we're bonded with, the people that we love, but we can't always, and that's unfortunate. You can lead by example, and you can show a man a door, but you can't make him walk through it. And that's a difficult lesson to learn sometimes. So I haven't really answered your question. I've just sort of explained what this guy's problem is, even though you said that yourself. But yeah, there's fuck all you can do, really, besides just try to lead by example. Perhaps at some point you'll change, perhaps at some point you won't, but that's his decision to make. Yeah, I mean, and part of it is the things that people consume, and there is something to be said for the things that we're exposed to and how that affects our mentality. So if this guy's just like constantly scrolling back black pill stuff and watching people like fucking wheat waffles and what's the other one? I can't remember the name of the other guy, but if that's what he's consuming, that's what he's gonna think. So I don't know, maybe. Like if you're his friend, send him the occasional reel that like counteracts that opinion. Maybe his algorithm changes a little bit. Maybe that starts to, because if you go at him with like, no, it's this and it's that, he's just going to get combative. He doesn't actually want to make changes. He just wants to complain and bitch about it, right? So if you're combative with him, if you're like, no, this is how it is, like walls are going to come up. There's just going to be resistance. So the best way to probably combat this, if he's not willing to actually have proper conversations with you about it and take your word, or mine or anybody else's, then subterfuge is perhaps in order. Like start trying to manipulate his algorithm by sending him stuff that changes his the things that he's exposed to a little bit, and then maybe he starts to watch those videos. Maybe his mentality changes a little bit, and over time he starts to open up a bit more, and then eventually he'll come to the light side of the force. I don't know. I hope that answers your question, Anton. You got anything to add to that?
Yeah, the main thing, like you told, is like he needs to have self-responsibility for his actions. But if he keeps blaming other people, then it's you can't solve it. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's not even that he's blaming other people. He's blaming things that are out with his control, basically his height. Um, he's like, yeah, this person's a man who stands 5'5" tall and is deeply troubled by his height, which he blames for his lack of attention from women. He also harbors some deeply problematic traits. He's racist, ill-tempered, displays very nasty and horrible demeanor. I bet he has a really negative opinion of women as well. Like, why? First of all, why? Like, this seems harsh because this guy's your friend. Why are you friends with this guy? Is this really someone that you want in your life? And that can seem harsh if you've grown up with people and you're like, oh, he used to be different. He used to be such a lovely boy, but you can't change people. You can only choose who you surround yourself with and the people that you allow into your life. And this person doesn't sound like a good person to have in your life. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can explain to him that some people like this, like even with a smaller height, are successful in dating, and maybe see what he answers on this. But I doubt that he's gonna change.
Yeah, people like this need to accept that the things that hold them back are like it's all internal. And if you're an objectively ugly person, is that going to help you in dating? Fuck no. Is it going to hold you back a little bit? Absolutely. But is it going to stop you from getting results? Absolutely not. Like I said this in the chat as well. Like, the number one complaint, I'm writing a post on it at the moment. I think this is included in the post. Again, discord.gg/self-improvement. Give away a bunch of shit for free that you can go and read. People like it. I have lots of female friends, date a lot of women. The number one complaint that they give about like their own dating lives is not, oh, it's hard to find attractive men or men with strong jawlines or tall men or this or that. And if all you do is watch fucking TikToks all day that are telling you that every woman only cares if you earn over 100 grand a year and have a fat cock and you're 6 foot tall, and it's like if that's your expectation for what women are, then that's what you're gonna see, and especially if you're not actually interacting with women in real life, which most people are not, right? If you're just getting all of your advice from some fucking little thing on the internet that is giving you a small sliver of society and filtering that through their own biases and trauma and all of that bullshit, then yeah, that's what you're gonna expect. That's what you're gonna see, and you're gonna feel demoralized about it. What was I talking about? What was my point?
About how he's like always blaming others.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember, but like if that's your worldview, then that's what you're going to experience. And yeah, that creates a repulsive mentality. Oh yeah, I was talking about something that I said. Oh yeah. The number one complaint that I hear from women in my life is not that they can't find those kinds of men, it's that they can't find good men. They can't find men that have their shit together, because we live in this world of Tinder and Bumble and all this bullshit where it doesn't matter so much how dateable you actually are as how dateable you can present yourself to be in like 6 pictures and a bio, right? So people that actually get their shit together. Like, even if you're an objectively ugly guy, again, I've coached objectively ugly people and they get fantastic results. If you are even that kind of person, if you separate yourself from the rest of people and you go out and you meet women in real life and you're friendly and polite and charismatic and confident and you know how to hold a conversation and you treat them well and you allow them to be feminine around you, and it's like this whole ethos that you create and this energy that you give off that's magnetic and attractive to people, doesn't fucking matter how you look. And again, I've had this conversation with You, like, ask if you have women in your life. No offense, if you have women in your life, go and fucking ask them. It's like, have you ever had an experience where you weren't attracted to a guy physically, but then you liked his personality and you found him physically attractive afterwards? And I guarantee you, well, I don't guarantee you because some women aren't like that. There's an exception to every rule, but you will find. I guarantee you, if you ask enough women, you will find that the majority of them say yes. They go, yeah, absolutely. Are there women that only give a fuck about how tall you are? Yes. Are there women that only give a fuck about how much money you make and all of that bullshit? Yes, absolutely. Right? Don't date those women. Like, go find all of the others in the world that don't give a fuck about that and just want like an actual good, healthy relationship with somebody. The problem is not that you don't have the physical characteristics to match, because that shit doesn't fucking matter. The point is that you don't have the emotional and personal characteristics to match, and you don't like that, and you don't want to fucking change. So what you do instead is you externalize all of it, and you say, oh, it's other people's fault. It's because I'm not tall enough, and society is vain and fickle, which it is. But you know, it's okay. I'm done ranting. You get the point. I've made my point well enough, I think. The black pill guys fucking annoy me to no end, though.
Yes, like you made a very good point about the guys on Tinder. All you need is like a funny bio and some good pictures. But this creates so much more problems because those guys with the good pictures, like they just want to like. They don't have a personality. They just go on a lot of dates, and
yeah.
But when you talk with them, they are like all about this gaming and like not being themselves. It's really horrible.
Yeah, you think Tinder's this fucking shit show for a guy? Speak to women about it. It's like the majority of them are like, the reason that women don't message you back on Tinder is because they're so used to people wasting their time and like just being assholes or just being like super directly sexual off the bat with no warm up, or you know, all of this. They're just used to dealing with fucking asshats that are not capable of dating, and so they turn to Tinder because they're like, oh, it's a pussy slot machine. No, it's not. It's you still have to put in some effort, you know. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. All right. There's another question here. Someone says, how do I become the coolest person in the world? I want to be worshipped by millions for how cool I am. Not by millions, by billions. I want every human on earth to know my name and speak it with both unconditional love and unbelievable fear. Right. When I first read this question, I was like, okay, this is probably a joke. I don't think that this is a joke question. I think knowing this guy, it's partly like a bit of hyperbole, but I think he genuinely wonders if this is possible, because this person has spoken before about having like extremely lofty goals and wanting to change the entire world, even though, and I know if you're watching this, like, no offense, mate, but you know as well as you're a very unmotivated person. You're not really doing much with your life, and we've talked about how you make grand visions to try and motivate yourself rather than you using small baby steps and snowballing and actually taking change to become a different person. So I'm going to answer the question as if it's a serious question, because I think it is. You can't. No matter what you do, there's always going to be people that don't like you, and there's always going to be people that do. Your job. And there's this term that gets floated around in like pickup circles and stuff, and they call it polarization. Like, the more polarizing you are, the better. So the more that people are either magnetized towards you or pushed away, the better. Because you don't want to be a wishy-washy person. You want to be someone of substance. You want to be someone that is refined to an extent that you know who you are and that you have a unique personality, so that others can either use that as a guiding light or as like a repellent, right? Because that way you end up pushing all of the people out of your life that aren't good for you, that aren't compatible with you, and then you end up with all the people that are, and that's wonderful. I really like the term polarized, because I think it has connotations of sitting on the end of a spectrum. I think it's important to find the middle path in things and sort of balance things in your life. But so rather than being polarized, I think you should be refined and to try and do that. But yeah, you can't get to the point. I mean, maybe you can. You fucking prove me wrong, right? But I don't believe that you can get to the point where you are both. Like, okay, here's the scenario. Here's the scenario where you get to the point where billions of people speak your name with unconditional love and unbelievable fear. First, you become like inordinately wealthy, or just in control of a vast number of resources. And how you do that, you don't really know. Some combination of dominance and manipulation and conquering and all of this stuff, right? But you come into control of vast amounts of wealth and resources. Then you develop a program where people have like like develop some sort of nanotechnology that once you put it in the food supply, you put it in vaccines, you put it in like a bunch of other stuff that people are consuming. You like spray it on the crops and pretend it's a weed killer or whatever, and you get to the point where everybody has consumed these things and it's in their bloodstream, and then you have them leach to their brain and pulse out certain frequencies that change the way that they think, so that they think about you with both unconditional love and unbelievable fear. And you essentially turn people into robots. That's how you do that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would work.
Yeah, I think what this person is basically asking is, how can I be liked? And you cannot be liked by everyone. Imagine if you would. Like, sometimes I talk to people that I don't like to be with. I don't want them to like me because I don't want to spend time with them. So why would I care?
Yeah, that is the moderate, reasonable answer. Yeah, I mean, yeah. How many times in your life have you been around people you're like, fuck, I wish this person would go away? Imagine that person had unconditional, undying love for you at all times. It's a pretty scary fucking thought. You don't want everybody to like you. It's not a good world. It's fine to have people not like you. If you want some people to like you, do as I said before. Become a refined person. Figure out your shit. Build some fucking social skills. Take a course, you know? Become a person that is liked and respected by other people. It's difficult, but it's not hard, if that makes sense. Like, it's not complicated. It just takes some work. And then you won't be so worried about this because you'll be happy. Right? Yeah. I think that's all the attention I need to give that question. You got anything you want to talk about?
Yes. I wrote down a few questions of myself. So like in the beginning, when I met you in the coaching, we talked a lot about honesty. And my question for you is, what are the consequences from habitual lying? What does it do to your persona? And what are the dangers of it?
Interesting. Okay, so I'll first talk about, and keep me on track on this because my mind's a little bit all over the place today, but I'll first talk about the consequences as pertains to the external and then the internal.
Okay.
So the external consequences of being dishonest with, I assume, with other people and with yourself to an extent, but with other people, it's like I think I talked about this last week as well. I'm not sure, but I'll talk about it again. I knew a guy, let's call him Boris. It's not his name, but let's call him Boris. Boris is a 37-year-old man that claims to be 47. He is... maybe I should... There's certain things that there are potential repercussions for me talking about here, so maybe I should be careful as to what I say. Anyway, there was a certain man in my life for a while that was a compulsive liar and a manipulator and a very charismatic guy. He was wonderful to hang out with, really fun dude to be around. But everybody that was around him, I noticed after a while, was a young friend of his. Like, it's like, oh, how do you know Boris? And they go, oh, well, we've been friends for, oh, his real name almost slipped out there. He's like, we've been friends for 3 months. I met him at this thing. Or, oh, yeah, we've been friends for 2 weeks. I met him at this thing. Or, yeah, or like the longest was maybe like 6 months, right? And that, I was like, okay, so here's this older guy. Lots of people around him, constantly surrounded by people. None of these people have known him very long. Is he new to the city? No, he's been here for years. Okay, what the fuck? And so I befriended this guy for a while, and we became rather close, and I always knew there was something up about him, and I knew that a lot of things he said weren't lies, but I saw him as like a bit of a traumatized guy, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, he needs affection, the same as everybody else, so I'll be his friend. And like I said, he was fun to hang out with, and he was a genuinely good friend in terms of some of the aspects that friends are good for, like emotional support in certain times and giving advice on stuff. He was reasonably cogent and good at that. Yeah, he was a bad person, good friend. But we eventually found out that this guy was lying about everything and met some people that had some very unsavory stories about him and stuff. And so essentially the consequence of being that kind of person, and this is an extreme. This is someone who is a compulsive liar. Like, it's just part of who they are. They lie about, like, everything that came out of this man's mouth was either a lie or at best a half truth, right? And the consequence of that was that nobody, like everybody around him eventually cottoned on, and so he had lots of connections, but he had very few deep and no long lasting connections. And this was a man that was deeply troubled by that, and you could tell. And that this is part of the reason that people lie often, is because they want to please people. They want people to like them, they want people to trust them, they want people to respect them, they want people to either they give them some kind of emotional attention, or just attention in general, whether it be attention because they pity a sad story, or they're proud of a happy one, or they're impressed by something. And often social liars go down one of two paths. They either become boasters, where they overinflate themselves and it's very egotistical, and this is also egotistical just in a very different way, they downplay everything, and they tell a lot of like very grandiose pity stories where things go bad for them and things are wrong because they're hoping to garner people's attention in that way. Either way, they're sort of attention vampires. They're looking for attention and validation from other people. And a lot of these people are often, and I knew this about this guy when I was his friend, you could just tell from the way that he was, but these are deeply hurt individuals, and they're people that are seeking love from people, and they don't know how to get it, and they don't believe that they're worthy of it, and so they seek it by manipulation and by lying to people. And again, if you go and watch the pickup video on the YouTube channel, I talk about this a little bit there. Like, a lot of pickup guys get into pickup for that reason. Like, and that is a game of manipulation and lies. They do it because they are looking, because they're seeking love. They want attention, validation. They don't believe that they're worthy of getting it, so they become another person. They put a mask on in order to do so. And the problems with that are that it divides you from people and causes people to dislike you and to mistrust you, and to eventually learn who you are, even if they don't for the first few months. Like, once that curtain shatters and people become disillusioned, it can be very like, oh shit, this person isn't who I thought they were, and then they'll never trust you again, right? So those are the consequences in terms of like the external, but the internal consequences are that you never really become a real person, because you're like you're a story, you're a thing that is made up, you're a series of lies and manipulations and falsehoods and exaggerations and shit that you tell people that might have some kernel of truth to it, that you've probably lost yourself in somewhere along the way. And you just become like a shell of your former self. And if you are, and I said this in the pickup video as well, it's like, if you are lying to people in order to make them like you, once they like you for the lies, not only does that reinforce the fact that you're not good enough on your own because you had to become this other person, but that person isn't, like, you're now even more scared to be yourself, because you can't let that shit out, because God forbid this person finds out who you are, because they wouldn't love you for that. They love you for the grandiose version of yourself that you've put on display. So those are the consequences, and the solution to that is to work on your shit and develop a healthy sense of self-love and compassion for yourself, and realize that it doesn't matter who you are. You are deserving of love and attention and respect, no matter what your parents might have told you, or your school bullies might have told you, or that inner monologue might have told you, and change that little voice in your head to start speaking to yourself a little bit nicer. And over time, and I've gone through this process myself, over time you will find that things get better, and your outlook gets better, and the things that you tell yourself gets better, and the way that you think and feel and interact with the world improves. And from that point, you can then go out and start interacting with people in a positive way, in a more honest, authentic, genuine kind of way. And you'll realize from then on that you will find people that are like, we've talked about this before, and I won't go into like too much granularity here, but it's about compatibility. You're looking to find people that are compatible with you. You don't need to make people like you. People will like you if you have chemistry, connection, and compatibility, right? Those are the three components of any healthy relationship, be it friendship or dating or whatever, right? If you have those three things, people will like you. And you can build those three things. I have posts on these three things. If you go into the social forum on the discord.gg/self-improvement. And it's just a much better way to live. I can attest to that. Anton can attest to that. Lots of fucking people can attest to that. To answer the question, I think it does.
Yes, it does. It does. And I think you also touched on this point, but it destroys your integrity. Like, if you speak your words, you can't even believe your own self anymore. Yeah. It's like a dangerous place to be, right?
Yeah, you become like you start, because someone that lies enough does start to believe their own lies. Like, memory is a very weird, fickle thing, and so you become a sort of just like a fake person, even internally. and you can't even trust yourself, and it's like your subconscious is constantly judging you, right? If you're in that little voice in your head, that ego, like if you're the kind of person that makes up lies because you don't feel good about yourself, what do you think that does to that voice that's telling you that you're not good enough? It just reinforces it. Yeah.
Exactly. And then like if you have the power to not lie anymore, then you basically have to like live a cool life for yourself, and because you don't want to lie anymore, and like and it motivates you to like have a cool life, you know?
Yeah. 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 Like telling the truth. It's not just beneficial in terms of the relation. It's like it improves your relationship with yourself, improves your relationship with other people, it improves your spiritual relationship if you believe in those sorts of things. It just makes life better, right?
Oh
There's
yes,
the
yes,
only real reasons to lie, especially in so I mean there are occasional reasons to lie, right? I'm not going to be naive enough to say that there aren't, but in social situations, the only real reasons to lie are as if you've done something wrong, you don't want people to find out, or you have an opinion that you're scared that other people might perceive negatively, or you expect other people to perceive negatively, which is again you're just trying to please people. Or no, no, I think that's it. You're scared of consequences, basically. You're just scared of you don't want people to see you for who you are, and or you've done something wrong that you're scared of the consequences for. There's no real other reason to lie in social situations. And so telling the
yes,
truth not only keeps you accountable to other people, but to yourself as well. And then you respect yourself more, and you have more energy, and you're happier, and just
exactly.
life is better. Life is better, and
I think
I'm not going to
I think
pretend that I'm not guilty of lying. I've been a bad man in the past. I'm sure we all have, but there's paths out of that,
yes.
and it takes time. But you learn that it's just better for everybody that you tell the fucking truth, basically.
It helps also tons with making a connection. If somebody
Oh yeah,
sees like it would be easy to lie about this, but he's honest,
yeah,
that makes me want to be also more vulnerable to him.
yes,
And
yeah.
then
That's
you can
another point.
like,
Yeah, sorry, Nico.
yes, yes, I think this one is a really big one to have better friends and people who respect you way more.
100%. If you are willing to be open and vulnerable with people, and not in like a trauma dumpy sort of way, but in like a healthy vulnerability sort of way, and we've talked about this before, and probably will again in the future. I'm not going to go into the difference between healthy and unhealthy vulnerability right now, but if you're willing to be vulnerable with people, it shows them that you are trustworthy and that they can be vulnerable with you. Remember, I said that the three components of any good relationship are connection, compatibility, and chemistry, compatibility, and connection. That third one, connection, is built through shared emotional experience and trust, and building rapport with each other and understanding how each other feel and think about things. And you can do that much, much faster if people trust you and like you and feel that you are being open and honest and upfront with them. And that gives them the space to do the same thing, right? If you're both opening up about the things that you feel and your perspective on the world in an honest and authentic and vulnerable way, you bond faster. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to end this one short because I am not feeling very well. Let's just put it that way. This is the Lebanese street food special.
Okay.
I ate it on Tuesday. It's Sunday. I'm still sick. It's really fucked up. Never
Damn,
going
that's
back. Never
bad.
going back to that place again. Yeah. Which is awful because it's like one of the best street food places in town as well. Like the food is so good, but it came at a cost that I am not willing to pay again, let's say.